Hello, everyone. This is Kaizen Base. Today we will learn about the difference between human work and movement.
Let's reduce movement and increase work, is sometimes said in daily work. This time, I will explain the details about the difference between this work and movement.
So, let's get started with the lecture. Mr. Kai, one heard that work and movement are different the other day. Can figure out what it means somehow, but I feel it a little difficult to judge whether the operation is work or movement. Is there any good criterion?
I see. Let's first sort out the concept of work and movement before confirming the criterion.
Yes, thank you.
Employees usually work within the decided time in the company. And the time of a day can be roughly divided into two types. One is the time spent on working and doing business, the other is the wasted time when people are not working. Wasted time can be the time spent on waiting, processing mistakes, dozing and excessive small talk, etc. Of course, those kinds of wasted time must be eliminated immediately. Furthermore, work and business can also be divided into two types. One refers to the work and business that create value added, the other refers to the work and business that do not create value added, but is absolutely essential in the current way of working, which is called incidental work or ancillary business. Of these two types, the part that creates value added is called work. On the other hand, movement is the incidental work or ancillary business that does not create value added directly. In this way, we can see that the work and movement seem to be similar, but there is a big difference between them. Work creates value added. Movement does not create value added. No matter how hard you work, if it doesn't create value added, it cannot be called work. After all of that effort, we will feel upset if being told you are not working, won't we? Therefore, it is very important to figure out the way to change movement during work into work.
I see. Although work and movement are both work and business, there is a big difference depending on whether they create value added or not. It is true that even if people think they are working hard themselves, they will be shocked if being told that what you do are not work. After all of that effort, we want to reduce movement and increase work.
That's right. Let's see movement and work in a more detailed case. Meal, think about which are work and which are movements in the following assembly process.
Yes.
The work procedure is as follows. 1. Taking the parts. 2. Taking the screw. 3. Taking the tool. 4. Tightening the screw. 5. Sending to the next process. First of all, how about the motion of 1 taking the parts?
Yes, I think it is work. Since parts are the necessary items, so I think the motion of taking them adds value.
Unfortunately, you are wrong. The motion of 1 taking the parts is movement.
What? But why?
That's because the motion does not add value. Meal, do you know what value added means?
I think that value added refers to the value added by work or business.
That's right. So what value is added by the motion of taking parts?
Ah, I've got it. Just taking parts does not change the shape, but only change the location. So there will be no value added, won't there?
That is exactly what I mean. Value added refers to the change in the shape of things and in the nature of information. Conveyance or movement will not change the shape or nature.
I see, so it will be okay to judge in this way.
Then, is the action of 2 taking the screw work or movement?
Well, I think it is movement, the same as the first one. Value cannot be added just by moving the parts or screw.
Good job. Next, how about the motion of 3 taking the tool?
Well, this is movement as well.
That's right. Then, how about the motion of 4 tightening the screw?
It is work, isn't it? The parts were assembled and the shape has changed by the motion of tightening the screws.
You are right. The motion of tightening screws creates value added. Then, how about the final motion of 5 sending to the next process?
Well, I think it is movement. Sending to the next process, which means conveyance, so I don't think it creates value added.
Yes, you are right. In the case of this assembly process, only 4 tightening the screw should be considered as work. You must feel curious that there was so little work. It is definitely surprising that there are much less work than expected. We usually take parts and move things without much thought, but actually what we have done are only movements, not work. We get the illusion that the more we move, the more we work. But actually the important point is to understand the quality of work and business from the perspective of how much the work can be increased.
Exactly. I have never considered work or business from that perspective. However, when I saw people who were moving loads of things diligently, I always thought vaguely that they were really working hard, but from the perspective of work and movement, that is not the case.
Absolutely. But it does not mean that the person who is doing this kind of work is not good. The increase in movement rather than work is always a problem with the work procedure, working environment or line design in the first place. Therefore, it is important to take an approach that can change the work design itself gradually through improvement activities.
I see. I totally understand now. By the way, what you have just taught me is an easy to understand example, but I suppose I may feel uncertain when distinguishing between work and movement in daily work. Is there any good way to tell the difference?
Yes, there is. If you are uncertain about the distinction between work and movement, you can make a judgment based on whether the value added increases when the motion is continued all day long. No matter if you take parts, screws or tools all day long, there won't be any value added. On the other hand, if you can only tighten the screws all day long, there will be a lot of value added. Similarly, you can imagine that even if you keep carrying things all day long, there won't be any value added as well.
That is to say, when the target motion is performed all day long, and the value is not increased from the customer's point of view, such as no products have been made, it should be judged that the motion is just a movement.
It's a good point of view. It seems that you have already understood the points perfectly. It might be a good idea to check how much work and movement you have in your daily work.
What? Me? I'd rather not. Now, we make a summary of today's lecture. The time of a day can be divided into time of working and doing business, and the wasted time. During the time of working and doing business, work refers to the motion that creates value added. Movement refers to the motion that does not create value added. And if you are not certain about your judgment, a simple way is consider the motion as work if the value added increases when it is continued all day long. And on the contrary, the motion should be considered as movement if the value added doesn't increase when it is continued all day long. That's all about today's lecture. So, see you at the next theme.